Unit 4.3.1, Feminist Theories of the Family. Now, we have spoken about other sociological perspectives, other sociological theories that we need to know when it comes to us understanding this unit family. We initially start off with the functionist perspective, followed by the Marxist perspective, followed by the New Right perspective. And now and then we did the postmodernist perspective. Yeah, we did the postmodernist perspective. And finally, it is the time today to get started with this feminist perspective. Now, getting started with this feminist perspective, I'm assuming everyone sitting here does have an idea about feminism. Now, this is an important topic. If we talk about the importance or the significance of this particular topic, you have had questions on this twice. You've had one question, the question that we have beneath. You've had this question in your specimen paper. Your specimen paper had this question, and the question over here says, evaluate the contribution of different feminist perspectives to understanding of the family. As soon as we would get done with this particular topic, and because this is it's really extensive. If we talk about this book published by Collins, this purple book, since we're following this particular book for this unit family, this is pretty extensive, and this is for good about, I mean, if we're counting pages, it is 15 pages, and it would take us quite a bit, right? Ideally, we should be over with this particular topic in 2 lessons, but I have a feeling it might take more, which is okay, right? Now, for this particular topic, there's a lot of detail. There are a lot of details that are there in this book. But then again, eventually we need to, I mean, to know stuff, it's good. Read it at home. You like it, you enjoy it. There's so much that you get to know about feminism. But alongside that, eventually we need to prepare ourselves for a 26-mark question. Just because this is that has been that does not mean that they mark question, right? So I will reach this part. Now, like I said, I would expect as with the completely evaluate on different feminist perspectives to our understanding of the family. Now, this we had in us. You might as well. So yeah, we had a guest. Yeah, taking it ahead. We had an assessment paper. We've had a question on this particular topic. The topic we have after this that has to do with conjugal roles, relationships with the at the evaluate feminist perspectives on equality in the family, right? The question that right at the top, and the question that we are, it's about on the family. Are we all good? So looking at step ahead, this is a topic dealt with to how this looks like divided into different parts. And we talk the sociological. Sociologists would talk about 1992 and 30 more years, so around 230 years back, right? Now, the second wave of feminism initiated in 1960s, went to about 1980s. The third wave of feminism, this initiated 1980s, went to about 1990s. And the fourth wave of feminism, this initiated in 2018, and this is also referred to as the digital form of feminism. So in order to understand the sociological history of feminism, like I said, we're dividing these we're dividing feminism into 4 different segments, 4 different eras. We move on and we talk about feminism and sociology, where we object on the notion of sociology being male stream, it having patriarchal roots. I see this wonderful child nodding over here. So yeah, number 3, we talk about, and then we move on, we talk about liberal feminism, we evaluate it, we talk about radical feminism, we talk about evaluating radical feminism, we talk about socialist or Marxist feminism, and towards the end, we conclude this. So this is going to take us 2 lessons, if not 3. Taking a start here, we're starting off with the feminist theory of the family. Okay, now one more thing, a tiny little disclaimer at this point, since this topic is बहुत ज़्यादा detail है, we'd have to rush, right? This book has been written in an amazing manner. Harlambus and Holborn, these authors, they do an amazing job whenever they do it, right? I've been a fan of their books, themes and perspective. The book that was, I'm not even sure if you guys know about this book. That's blue color, really fat book. They've always done an amazing job. So यहाँ पे they have a lot of details regarding feminism. It gets pretty self-explanatory. You guys can understand it while reading it at home as well. Can we do this from the slides? I have another plan. Let me get through with the part that I'm planning on getting over with today, and then I'll give you some amazing work to do. And that would be expected from you by evening today, so that by the next lesson, we know what has to be done. Yes. So yeah, taking it ahead, the feminist theory of family. Thank you for reminding me though. So like I said, we'd start off with the sociological history of feminism. The first wave, this began year 1792, that is 230 years back. Now, what did this book comprise of? What is the name of the book? The name of the book is A Vindication of the Rights of Women with strictures on political and moral subjects. So a vindication of the rights of women. Now, what did it do? I mean, it had a lot, but the points that we need to know and cater to at this point. Starting off, number one, according to this book, A Vindication of the Rights of Women, that was written by Mary Wollstonecraft, like I said, the first thing that has to be kept in mind, what she demanded was female education. The first point, females having the right to education. And when we talk about females having to education, we're actually referring to females having the right to education so that they could be more effective partners in a marriage. Clear here? The first point, females having the same education so that they could be more effective partners, successful mothers. Wollstonecraft also highlighted blatant inequalities in marriage that allowed unscrupulous husbands to exploit the inherited wealth of their wives. Number two, back then, what used to happen was a husband used to inherit the wealth of his wife. Sadly, it still happens in our part of the world. Yeah, a husband used to inherit the wealth of his wife, and according to this book, this should come to an end as well. Over the 19th century, Wollstonecraft follows a notable set of victories. So there are two main things that we spoke about. Number one, providing women with an opportunity, giving them the same right to education as men do. Number two, allowing women to keep their wealth to themselves and not end up inheriting the wealth. Now, over the 19th century, remember this book was written in the 18th century, 1792, 18th century. Over the 19th century, Wollstonecraft follows won a notable set of victories for married women's rights. Legislation was eventually passed in both the USA and in many European nations protecting women's property rights. Previously, a husband could claim ownership of his wife's property once married, and allowing women to initiate divorce proceedings as well. Clear here? So now we're talking about women, or now we're talking about females having an opportunity to get educated. Number two, we spoke about women getting protection from the system so that husbands, from the government, so that their husbands do not end up inheriting their wealth. I mean, without their approval, of course. Number three, we're talking about women being allowed to initiate a divorce. Clear here? The first wave of feminism culminated in some groups of women being given the vote in the USA and several European countries. I'm assuming we all do know this. Back till the 19th century, females were not allowed to vote, even in the USA. It was through the suffrage movement. If you want to give this a read, you may. It was through the suffrage movement that women were allowed to vote. So we're talking about history. This is so interesting. How many of you knew if feminism origin 1792 se hai? You knew about this voting thing, but you did not know about feminism having its origins from 230 years back. Yeah, taking it ahead. We move on, and I want to speak about the second wave of feminism now. The second wave of feminism began in the 1960s and continued into the 1970s. Now, what's to be kept in mind over here is, may I have your attention, please? Yes. So, what has to be kept in mind over here is the second wave of feminism. There were three distinct school of feminist thoughts and actions emerged in this period. So, हम जब second wave की बात करते हैं, तो इस second wave में, that is during 1960s and 70s, आपके पास तीन अलग सब स्कूल ऑफ थॉट्स, राइट? फॉर इंस्टेंस हम देखिए फेमिनिज्म पढ़ रहे हैं, हम फेमिनिज्म की सब कैटेगरीज की बात कर रहे हैं, राइट? हम फेमिनिज्म की सब कैटेगरीज की बात कर रहे हैं, और इन फेमिनिज्म की सब कैटेगरीज के अंदर वी हैव लिबरल फेमिनिज्म, वी हैव रैडिकल फेमिनिज्म, एंड वी हैव Marxist feminism. So we speak about liberal feminism, radical feminism, and Marxist feminism, and then we proceed. Right? Do we have any question? Any question? Anyone know? So yeah, Marxist feminism क्या है? Allow me, just give me a couple of minutes, and we get over with liberal feminism, radical feminism, and then we eventually move to Marxist feminism. पढ़ाऊंगा, जरूर पढ़ाऊंगा, ठीक है? आज हम इतनी डिटेल में नहीं पढ़ेंगे, लेकिन नेक्स्ट क्लास में जो हम पढ़ेंगे वो बहुत ज्यादा डिटेल में होगा, ठीक है? In 1960s and 70s, and the second wave, there were three distinct school of feminist thoughts and actions that emerged during this period. And to name them, we have liberal feminism, radical feminism, and Marxist feminism. Are we good? So, are we good to go? Now, starting off with liberal feminists, let me give you a bit of an idea about liberal feminists over here. Now, as we speak about liberal feminism, right? यहाँ पे जब हम liberal feminism की बात कर रहे हैं, तो liberal feminism is also referred to as the softer form of feminism, right? Liberal feminism is also referred to as the softer form of feminism, number one. Number two, why liberal feminism is referred to as the softer form of feminism? Because liberal feminists, unlike radical feminists, right? There's a difference. एक एक्सट्रीम पे हमारे पास लिबरल फेमिनिस्ट है, दूसरी एक्सट्रीम पे हमारे पास रैडिकल फेमिनिस्ट है, राइट? These liberal feminists, unlike the क्या कहते हैं, radical feminists, right? These liberal feminists, unlike the radical feminists, believe, number one, that they acknowledge that there has been a change. The first thing, they acknowledge that there has been a change. कहते हैं जनाब तब्दीली आई है, ठीक है? हम अगर कंपेयर करते हैं, ठीक है, रिमेंबर द ओरिजिन्स ऑफ द ओरिजिन्स इन 1960s and 1970s, अगर हम कंपेयर करते हैं, तो अकॉर्डिंग टू लिबरल फेमिनिस्ट, yes, there has been a change, right? The amount of opportunities that women have today are way more than the amount of opportunities that they had earlier, ठीक है? Sorry, yeah. So one, they acknowledge that there has been an improvement. However, according to them, there's still a need for more. दोबारा बोले? नहीं थी, हम देखिए टाइमलाइन की बात आएगी। So moving on, since we're discussing liberal feminism, the first thing that I said I want everyone to keep in mind over here is, number one, according to liberal feminists, yes, there have been changes for the good. However, there is a need for more. Clear? Now, this need for more should be catered to through bringing in changes in the legal system. आपको तब्दीली नहीं है ना, तो लीगल सिस्टम को इस्तेमाल करते हैं, सोशल पॉलिसीज के लेके आना, तो the Equal Pay Act, the discrimination, the time like there were changes made, realize the I wouldn't want to link this to that. Okay, so yeah, taking it ahead, according to liberal feminists, for the third time now, changes आई हैं, changes आनी चाहिए, लेकिन changes legal system के through आनी चाहिए, right? Women should be provided with an opportunity, and if women are, I mean, if you're providing them with equal opportunities, you're providing them with a platform, then it's on them to show the world what they're capable of. Does that make sense? So yeah, now taking it ahead, liberal feminism. Let's have a look at what our book has to say about this. Some feminists who can be termed liberal feminists believe that sociological analysis of gender inequality in fields such as education, employment, pay, social mobility, and family life would demonstrate the pervasive influence of patriarchy and put pressure on governments to pass civil rights legislation and social policy that would put females on an equal footing with the males, like I just said. Here, this was reasonably successful in that it led to the governments introducing equal opportunities legislation that banned discriminatory practices against females by employers and encouraged more married women into the workplace. The law was also changed to make divorce more accessible to married women. In the 1980s, many liberal feminists claimed that the influence of patriarchy was weakening. Clear here? The influence of patriarchy was weakening because studies carried out by feminist sociologists such as Sue Sharp. Let me give you guys an idea about the study that was conducted by Sue Sharp. Sue Sharp had conducted 1976 में Sue Sharp ने जो study conduct की थी, इससे पहले भी Sue Sharp ने एक study conduct की थी. I'm not really sure about the year. Unfortunately, I can't really recall the year right now, but it was I get you there. I mean, I'd let you know the year. I can't really recall it at the moment. So yeah, what I was saying is, according to what we have in front of us, Sue Sharp conducted a research in 1976, but I was trying to give you a background of the study. इससे पहले भी Sue Sharp ने एक और study conduct की थी, right? And उस study के अंदर Sue Sharp ने ये claim किया था कि what she found out was that the way women prioritize, the way young girls, females rather, they prioritize things in their life, it more or less went in the order of them giving more significance to companionship, friendship, love life, marriage, romance, children, so on and so forth. However, when she conducted this research again in the year 1976, when she conducted this research again in the year 1976, yeah. So Sue Sharp's 1976 study of women, working class schoolgirls in the 1970s showed that their main priorities for the future were love, marriage, husbands, and children. When she repeated the study in 1990s, she found significant change, right? Do we get this? She found significant changes. Now the girls' main concerns were job, career, and being able to support themselves. Okay? So there was a shift in terms of priorities. Clear? Sue Sharp clearly demonstrated that young women no longer shared the same aspirations and priorities as the mothers. So I believe this needs a correction from your book. This 1976 is actually referring to the earlier research that she had conducted. Okay? So Sue Sharp in 1976, I mean, in 1990s, should be 1990s, clearly demonstrated that young women no longer shared the same aspirations and priorities as the mothers and grandmothers with regard to marriage and family life. Now their priorities had changed. They were looking forward towards career aspirations. They were looking forward towards more economic stability. They were looking forward towards jobs. Yeah? So this could probably be because of the changes in the legal system, the changes in the opportunities that females used to once have, right? So all of these trends were viewed by liberal feminists as evidence that patriarchy was in retreat, right? And that equality might be achieved in the not too distant future. Do you smell optimism there, right? So liberal feminists, number one, they did accept, they did acknowledge कि changes आई थी, according to them, changes और भी आनी चाहिए, and they were actually looking forward towards these changes, working towards the betterment. Clear? Now that we're done with liberal feminism, or basics on liberal feminism, we do this in detail in the next lesson, inshallah. Now, when we talk about radical feminism over here, what do radical feminists have to claim? What do radical feminists claim? अब देखें, radical feminism is the not so soft version of feminism. There, it's the other extreme to liberal feminism. Radical feminists typically the basic notion, the basic idea over here is, मैं आपको दो तीन points बता देता हूँ जिससे आपको radical feminism को समझना और आगे इसको इस्तेमाल करना हुआ. If you want to use it in answers, this would help you a lot. Number one, the hint over here is, the keyword over here is radical in itself. As much as liberal feminists wanted to bring in a change through bringing in it through as much as liberal feminists wanted to bring in a change through changes in social policies and legal system, radical feminists believed it wouldn't really work out that way. According to radical feminists, patriarchal roots, patriarchy was so deep rooted that these changes through the legal system would not be able to make any difference, right? Now, why is it that these changes being made in the legal system, or how is it that they believe that these changes being made through the legal system wouldn't really affect, right? Or it wouldn't really be possible to bring in these changes? According to radical feminists, आपके पास patriarchy इतनी strong है, आपके पास patriarchal institutions. I'm assuming everyone sitting over here knows what patriarchy is. Patriarchy, male domination. अब society इस हद तक male dominated है कि आपके लिए possible ही नहीं है कि आप equal opportunities females को provide कर सकें through the legal system, through the right channel. Clear? And instead, what they advocated was a radical change, a sudden change, an abrupt change. जो करेंगे खुद करेंगे. They wanted, yes. So, a couple of examples here. If we try providing a justification, I'm not even sure if I should be using the word justification over here, but according to them, आप कैसे changes लाएंगे? Legal system में changes लाएंगे आप? Judiciary आपकी is controlled by men. आप changes कैसे लाएंगे? Economic system के अंदर आप government के through changes लाएंगे. Parliament आपकी comprises of more of men, is headed by males commonly. Clear? And according to radical feminists, there's this radical feminist Valerie Bryson. According to Valerie Bryson, patriarchy, or according to Valerie Bryson, radical feminism is by women, is about women, of women. There was just another word I'm missing here, right? It is by women for women. Let's just use two. Clear? So according to radical feminists, they're against patriarchy. According to them, patriarchy आपके पास इतनी strong है कि आप society के अंदर legal way से changes ला ही नहीं सकते. Are we all getting this? Yeah, and they have an extreme wing to radical feminism too, an extreme wing to radical feminism. And let me give you a couple of examples of some radical feminists from the extreme wing. We have Greer. Greer advocated segregation. Yeah, segregation from men. Get it? For the ones who get this, I'm sure would agree that this isn't really the solution. Advocated matrifocal families. Society wouldn't really be able to run or operate like this. And that is why the author of this book is even referring to this as the extreme wing of radical feminism. Another was Laura M. Purdy. Purdy suggested a baby strike. Say no to having babies. The third one was Shulamit Firestone, the Canadian radical feminist. She believed it was because women have to bear a child. It is because women or females, they bear a child, they're expected to rear a child too. And that puts them into a very disadvantaged position. So yeah, let's find an alternative solution to it. So yeah, according to radical feminists, women are dominated by men ideologically, economically, physically, politically, culturally. And historically, all of this has been happening all along. Do we get this? Yeah. Taking it ahead. However, another feminist school of thought, radical feminism, did not share this optimism. This group of feminists argued that men and women would always be locked in a state of conflict with one another because the continued existence of patriarchy ensured men's power over women. This continued existence of patriarchy ensured men's power over women. Radical feminists argued that patriarchy is a system of male domination in which males use ideological, economic, and physical power to control and subordinate females. Moreover, they argued that all men were naturally inclined to exploit and oppress women, and that violence against women, especially rape and domestic abuse, was the main means by which men controlled women. These feminists believed that women needed to liberate themselves or set themselves free from men and to set up women only communities. Remember the idea of segregation? The more extreme wings of this movement advocated refusing to have children, Laura and Purdy, and encouraged feminists to avoid marriage and to shun family life. So, yeah, I'm assuming we all have an idea about liberal feminism and radical feminism. They're two extremes. While liberal feminists are looking forward towards bringing in changes through the legal system, and on the other hand, radical feminists think otherwise. Clear here? Taking it ahead, we'd speak about Marxist feminism. Marxist feminism, in this case, we're referring to them as, we're putting them into the same category, socialist or Marxist feminism. अब इनके difference के बारे में हम बाद में पढ़ेंगे, मतलब in the next lesson, probably in the next lesson, if this doesn't get to the third lesson. Okay? Now, when we talk about Marxist feminism, I'm assuming everyone sitting over here does have an idea about what Marxists believe in, what typically Marxists believe in, right? Marxists क्या claim करते हैं? Marxists claim करते हैं society के अंदर जो inequalities है, वो सारी की सारी capitalism की वजह से है. जो society में inequalities है, वो सारी की सारी capitalism की वजह से है. And guess what? It's not patriarchy that does as bad to families and females in particular as capitalism does. A few examples of how the capitalist system benefits out of family as a structure. Number one, according to Marxist feminists, men, when they're working, we're talking about the proletariat men, when they're working, the workplace strips them of their dignity. आप workplace के अंदर alienated feel करते हो. You lack control over your workplace. You're just told to do things that you keep on doing. This stripping out of your identity, what a married man does is he tries to compensate for that back at home. Because you don't feel powerful at the workplace, you try to regain that power back at home. And when you're regaining that power back at home, you are being abusive towards your family members. Could go to the extreme forms could be violence, physical abuse, sexual assaults, rape. Clear? Another example, David Cooper, 1972, believed your family plays a very important role in terms of ideologically conditioning the children and proletariat families. आप ideological conditioning कर रहे होते हो बच्चों की. Ideological conditioning आप कैसे कर रहे होते हैं बच्चों की? आप from a very young age, you make sure they're not stubborn. बच्चे के अंदर का rebelliousness आप खत्म कर रहे होते हो at a very young age, so that tomorrow, when the child steps into the workplace, the child is an uncritical, submissive, docile member of the workforce. Again, according to Marxist feminists, it's your family that makes it possible for the bourgeois, for the rich, the elite, the capitalist system, to have this continuous production of labor force. देखिए आपको continuous production of labor force की जरूरत है. If you own a factory, if you're an industrialist, you would want, you'd want a continuous production in terms of workforce. आपको workforce की जरूरत होगी. ये workforce आपको कौन लाके देता है? ये workforce आपको proletariats की families लाके देते हैं. Another example, according to Marxist feminists, Margaret Benston, a married man loses his bargaining power. Right? If you're a married man, you lose your bargaining power at the workplace. There are more chances you would be ready to work at a low wage in not so bearable conditions just because you have a family. You know, back at home, you have mouths to feed. Again, according to Marxist feminists, I mean, I think it's a long list now. According to Marxist feminists, your family, according to Fran and Stee, your family plays a role of a safety valve. And this safety valve, if anything, is stabilizing the capitalist system. The frustration that you gather from the capitalist system out at your workplace, you come back home and let it out. If you're not letting it out, it would keep on gathering, and eventually there's a possibility it might spill over and do some harm to the capitalist system. So instead, आप एक pressure cooker की whistle की तरह periodically family आपको allow करती है, आप घर आके ये frustration निकालते हैं. Another point about Marxist feminism, according to Marxist feminists, a married man gets support from his wife. A wife typically makes sure that her husband is in a good running condition. If the husband is taken care of at home, the chances of the husband performing better at the workplace would increase. If the chances of the husband performing better at the workplace increases, that would automatically benefit the capitalist system. According to Marxist feminists, again, it has been very long. Okay, let me just wrap it up. Let this be the last one. According to forgetting the name again. Perhaps we've studied this too. According to Ali Zaretsky, your family is a unit of consumption, right? The products that are manufactured by the capitalist system, manufactured with the intentions of maximizing profits for the bourgeois, they are made for these proletariats. The more proletariats you have, the more members you have in a proletariat family, the more potential consumers you have. The more potential consumers you have, the more chances there are that your sales would increase. The more chances there are that your sales increase, the more chances there are that you keep on making more and more of profit. Fancy, right? Come up again. You can work workforce, but then again, while you're rearing your family, you know that consume or kuch nahi to wheat and bread ki zarurat hogi. Where do you think that comes from? Through the bourgeoisie, through the capitalist system. You're just helping them make more and more of profits. Do we understand this? Everyone? Now, the third wave of feminism, I'm assuming we all understand the second wave of feminism real well. The 1960s and 70s went all till 1980s. Three distinctively different school of thoughts: the liberal feminists, the radical feminists, and the Marxist feminists. Moving on towards this third wave of feminism. This third wave of feminism can be dated to the late 1980s and 1990s and was essentially made up of two critiques of the second wave. And they are, number one, the intersectional feminists, and number two, the post-feminists. intersection feminists and post feminists. I'd want everyone to read through this before we proceed. Giving you all a minute, read through this, and then we proceed. I mean, theoretically, it makes sense. They're on the screen. Make it a bit quick. Can you take this, please? You come back quickly. So yeah, after this tiny little break, let's take a start again. We just got over discussing the first and the second wave of feminism, taking a start with the third wave of feminism. So yeah, this third wave initiated, you could date it back to the late 1980s and 1990s. These were they essentially made up of the critiques of the second wave. In other words, हम बात कर रहे हैं इस वक्त criticism की, sort of a criticism towards the second wave of feminism, right? Towards the second wave of feminism, right? Yeah. So we divide this into two parts over here. Number one, we speak about intersectional feminism, also known as difference feminism. And number two, we talk about post-feminism, right? Intersectional feminism and post-feminism. Intersectional feminism and post-feminism, right? What does the word intersectional feminism mean? And like I said, intersectional feminism is also referred to as डिफरेंस फेमिनिज्म. ठीक है, डिफरेंस फेमिनिस्ट क्या क्लेम करते हैं. अब जब हम बात करते हैं इंटरसेक्शनल फेमिनिज्म की, ठीक है, तो सबसे पहली चीज या when we talk about intersectional feminism, I'm sure you would, I mean, the basic notion that they all intersectional feminists they shared was कि भाईजान आप ये क्लेम नहीं कर सकते या ये क्लेम करना गलत होगा that women, all women typically have the same effect of patriarchy. Patriarchy is bad for everyone in the same manner. You know, there are differences that, I mean, there are so many differences. There are so many subcategories that you could have, right? The way patriarchy affects females from the younger lot would be different from the way patriarchy affects females from the older lot. Yeah, according to them, this is the notion that they put forward, intersectional feminism. ठीक है, ये क्लेम कर रहे हैं कि भाईजान आप किस तरीके से ये कह सकते हो कि पेट्रियार्की सबको एक ही तरीके से अफेक्ट करती है, क्योंकि नहीं करती. पेट्रियार्की अलग अलग तरीके से अफेक्ट करती है. ठीक है, पेट्रियार्की जब हम बात करते हैं तो पेट्रियार्की, like I said, there would be different experiences that a woman from a rich background would have as compared to the woman from the not so rich background, right? There would be a different way that a female from an ethnic minority would be affected through patriarchy as compared to a female from an ethnic majority, right? And while referring to this, we could link this up with Black feminism as well, right? According to Black feminists, okay, fine, gender is a reason that puts us down, lets us down. But for them, for Black feminists, more than their gender, their ethnicity is what leads to the discrimination that they experience in the day-to-day life. For them, it was being Black that put them in a vulnerable position as compared to them being a female. And if anything, for many Black feminists, a family, a home was a safe place, was a safe haven, because the discrimination that you were facing out in the world was shared by your family members too. Clear? So intersectional feminism, also known as difference feminism, the idea is there are different experiences that individuals, in this case females, have. and the way they're affected through patriarchy, it's very different. You can't assume that one size fits all. I mean, you can't, the assumption that one basic theory, one theory would be enough for everyone across board, according to intersectional feminists, doesn't really do much, doesn't really do justice. Clear? Right? So let's speak about intersection feminism first, so that things are clearer to you, and then we move on towards post-feminism. Clear? So there were two types of critiques: intersection feminists and post-feminists. Intersection feminists, many of whom were Black feminists, pointed out that liberal and radical feminists were guilty of theoretical imperialism. I just showed you theoretical imperialism, the idea that one set of ideas is somewhat superior or better than the others. Experience of one is somewhat superior than the other. So, and ethnocentrism, I'm assuming everyone knows the term ethnocentrism has to do with you carrying the belief that your culture is somewhat superior to the other cultures. Okay? Remember, Black feminists का मैंने example दिया था. Around revolve करते हैं, जी हाँ. So, because they assume that the Western, white, and often middle-class experience of patriarchal oppression is the norm for all women, wherever they're located in the world. From an intersectional feminist perspective, this assumption is an oversimplification. This assumption is an oversimplification of the subtle realities of the patriarchal oppression. According to intersectional feminists, you're oversimplifying the experiences of patriarchy. Clear? Of the subtle realities of the patriarchal oppression experienced by different groups of women across the world. For example, Western feminists claim that the family is the main site of patriarchal oppression, but Black feminists in the USA suggest that in societies characterized by white supremacy, apartheid, and institutional racism, the family is often a site of refuge and liberation from the trauma and stress of living in a society that is hostile to the presence of minority groups. No, it's about the assumption that females across the globe would have the same experiences, which intersectional feminists believe is not the case. According to them, अलग-अलग subgroups के अलग-अलग experiences होते हैं. आप एक Western supremacy के ऊपर based theory नहीं ला सकते, ये assume करते हुए कि सबके experiences ऐसे ही हैं. Do we proceed? Do we proceed? Yeah. Now taking it ahead, let's talk about post-feminism over here. Why post-feminism? अब post-feminism की जब हम बात करते हैं, तो the third wave also saw the emergence of a group of female academics who described themselves as post-feminists. These academics argued that women in the 1980s had acquired a great deal of economic power, right? Post-feminists, post-paid, prepaid, connect dots, post-feminism, right? The assumption that females today had acquired it all, right? Now, acquired it all, acquired a great deal of economic power, and that young women had never had it so good. Steri Gillies and Rebecca Munford in 2004 argued that these post-feminists claimed that the 1990s generation of young women revived and rejected conventional feminism, and consequently few young women self-identified as feminists. Now, we're talking about a timeline over here, right? We're talking about a timeline over here. Clear? Post-feminists rejected the idea that women were the victims of men and advocated and... Should I bring this down? Yeah. Sure. Did I? Okay, so yeah. According to post-feminists, they claim that the 1990 generation of young women, right? Remember, we'd use the word post-feminism over here, that they had acquired what they were wanting to acquire. Women today, back in the 90s, they claimed, were much more economically powerful than the older generations. According to them, जो conventional feminism के notions हैं, conventional feminism जो हम पीछे बात कर रहे थे, liberal, radical, and Marxist feminists, according to them, these were pretty outdated ideas. Because, I mean, the examples of the popularity that Madonna gained, right? And there were examples, there were many examples of females. Yeah, that could be used as an example. We could talk about, see, there are so many examples of women actually doing better than the older generations, right? And of course, they've faced backlash too. But let's talk about them. Exactly. So yeah, feminism and conservationists rejected the idea that women were victims of men and advocated an alternative power feminism. Right? Come on, keep on gathering. There are more to come. We're talking about power feminism over here that applauded the economic success, right? Applauded, celebrated the economic success of these gender of young women. These women, who were sometimes called the ladettes, were encouraged by post-feminists to adopt. What sort of traits are we talking about? To focus on their careers, to be sexually active, to drink heavily without a fear of judgment. Or in other words, to do things that typically the society expected men to do, right? Ladettes, yeah. Post-feminism, therefore, extolled the virtues of the girl power, symbolized by the global success of the Spice Girls and Madonna. I'm not sure if you've heard them. You did? And the global popularity of the American TV series Sex and the City. However, Gillies and Munford conclude that post-feminism was viewed with skepticism by many. Like I said, they did experience an backlash and turned out to be merely short-lived fashion rather than a genuine indication that women had reached the next generation in the feminist struggle. Do we understand this? Right? Everyone? Does anyone have any question? Now, quickly moving on further, talking about this fourth wave of feminism. As we refer to this fourth wave of feminism over here, this fourth wave of feminism is articulated very clearly by Higgins in 2018. This fourth wave of feminism is also referred to as the digital form of feminism, 2018, digital form of feminism. Clear here? Who observe that this type of feminism is made up of those who have lost their trust in forward progress or those who were born too recently. I mean, the things like the ideas that were put forward, the notions, the philosophies that were put forward by earlier conventional feminists, they are sort of seen as outdated today by these digital feminists. The millennial generation to have experienced it. Higgins describes this wave of feminism as a digital form of feminism and claims that it is more concerned with action than theory. Clear? She observes, I mean, this content we've studied over here, you would have an idea to this. And like I mentioned earlier, this has a lot of content that has to be catered to. So yeah, she observes that this digital feminism has rediscovered patriarchy because of recent scandals in the worlds of celebrity films and politics that produced the Me Too movement. Marina Watanabe in 2014 observes that this fourth wave feminism sees patriarchy as perpetuating sexism, misogyny, and violence on a daily basis against women. However, fourth wave also patriarchy and limit for too, right? Remember when we were discussing topic 1.2, social change in IT, we discussed this hegemonic masculinity, as we had referred to it, is actually toxic for males too. I mean, it is doing bad for females. That's a done thing. But at the same time, it's not good for men as well. Young boys who've been bought under, who've had this upbringing through this hegemonic model, hegemonical instability, toxic forms of masculinity, the idea, the notion कि आप superior हो at any given point. If your partner, female partner, starts doing better than you start feeling insecure. Why? Get it? This might psychologically affect you really bad. To try to regain what you think you've lost. If you remember, we've spoken about the crisis of masculinity too. You might resort to means you shouldn't. Your frustration might eventually translate into violence. Get it? So, yeah, it argues that both societies and families are responsible for inculcating men with a toxic form of masculinity, which has negative consequences for males as they grow up to become adults and particularly husbands and fathers. Do we get this? Does everyone get this? Okay, so this is a digital form of this book, and this annotated version is supposed to help you. And this, I mean, if you can't really print this out because this content over here, it's too tiny. This is meant to be for digital viewing only. So yeah, digital feminism has also been influenced by intersectionality, right? Intersectionality. Not everyone has the same experience because everyone is different, right? And consequently, it encourages the view that the experience of patriarchy is qualitatively different for a range of social groups. The experience of patriarchy is qualitatively different for a range of social groups, including the LGBT, that is lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender community. Digital or millennial feminists are, okay, a lot of what we studied over here has already been covered when we're doing a gender identity topic, yeah, social identity के अंदर आप gender identity in particular, आप जब gender identity में topic 1.3 मैं बार-बार कह रहा हूँ, ठीक है? If you guys want, you can go back and give it a read. Gender identity के भी अंदर के topic के नीचे आपने पढ़ा था about transgenders, transsexuality too, right? So digital feminism has also been influenced by intersectionality, and consequently, it encourages the view that experience of patriarchy is qualitatively different for a range of social groups, including the LGBT communities. Digital or millennial feminists are particularly critical of the radical feminists, right? Why are they critical of the radical feminists in particular here, right? आगे आप देखोगे, wait and watch. See, they all have different experiences, right? The L, the G, the B, the D. In that case, okay, so I have a question over here. The question is, isn't feminism always revolving around females? Not really. पीछे आपने toxic masculinity पढ़ा. One. Number two, नहीं, toxic masculinity का जब हम term use करते हैं, तो we are referring to the harm this form of masculinity does to male. So yeah, the male part is there. One. Number two, individuals, if you talk about transsexual individuals, now that you've asked, individuals who transsexual individuals, especially the ones who get their surgeries done, who converted to a female recently, a male converted it into a female, right? Radical feminism, especially this lady Greer, she believed, and I mean, she has faced a lot of criticism for this as well. She denies she does not like the idea of them being called females because they're the new females, right? Which again has faced criticism. Ke bhaijan aisa kyun hai? Yeah. So moving on to this digital. Yeah. Digital and millennial feminists are particularly critical of the radical feminist refusal to accept the idea. See, they are particularly critical of the radical feminist refusal to accept the idea that transsexuals who have transitioned from males to females should be considered to be women. They have accused radical feminists such as Gray, who argues that trans women are not real women. Clear? Of being transphobic. Everyone knows what the word transphobic means. They are also critical of the idea that masculine and feminine identity can be reduced to a simple gender binary, right? Here you go. Oh, it's not here. Transphobic has to do with the what do you call it? With the uh, fear that people have, individuals who have, look at this, individuals who are transgenders or transsexuals. Okay, so taking it back, where were we? Yeah, they are also critical of the idea that masculine and feminine identity can be reduced to a simple gender binary between males and females. According to them, it's more like a continuum. Clear? Do we understand this? Right? In this sense, digital feminism has been very influenced by the work of Judith Butler, just in case you're interested, an American philosopher, still alive. Moving on. Judith Butler, influenced by the work of Judith Butler, who argues that academics need to view both sex and gender as continuing separate continua, right? The biological sex continuum is bookended at one end by biological males as represented by their possession of male sex organ, and at the other end by female biology as represented by the possession of female sex organ, ovaries and womb. However, between these two extremes is found a range of biological conditions. Clear, dear? Do we get this? Everyone? For example, some people may be born with intersex biological features. Now, we've discussed all of this. Like I said, we've discussed all of this when we're doing gender identity in detail. So, for example, some people may be born with intersex biological features. Some females may be born without ovaries or a womb. Some people's bodies may produce too much testosterone or estrogen. Here, with regard to gender, Butler argues that this is largely socially constructed by individuals and societies. For example, societies have dominant ideas about how boys should behave, known as masculinity, and how girls should behave, known as femininity. Butler claims that sex is biologically determined, but the gender is performed. Are we good there? Most members of society conform to dominant or hegemonic definitions of gender and perform according to cultural expectations, right? So we have different cultural expectations. The cultural expectations that we have in our part of the world are different from the cultural expectations that you have people in the Middle East, are different from the cultural expectations you have individuals from the more developed parts of the world. Clear? So, however, some do not, for example, transvestites transgress social norms regarding both masculinity and femininity. Now, what does this word mean? Males showing interest towards wearing female clothing, and females showing interest towards wearing males. Yeah, the expectations that the society, again, this is a social construct. You're amazed at this knowledge, right? Okay, that's out. You did not have to. You did not have to point that out. Okay, chale. Okay. So transgress social norms regarding both masculinity and femininity. Some individuals experience gender dysphoria. Do you know what the term gender dysphoria means? You know, yes, meaning that although they are deemed male or female, the internal sense of gender does not fit how they have been biologically categorized. Clear, dear? Good. Many of these individuals may choose to identify as gay, lesbian, or bisexual, may be content with their biology, but be sexually attracted to those of their own sex and consequently perform in stereotypical gender ways that the rest of the society recognizes as gay rather than masculine or feminine. So it's more over again. So it's not about it more than an hour, I believe. Yeah, like I said, this is pretty elaborated content that we have in this book. But the good thing is that it's interesting. You get to know a lot about what is happening in the wider world, and you get to know them better. Yeah, I think it's explanatory, like I've been saying. You can read it on your own as well. And eventually, देखिए हमें लिखना CI के हिसाब से मैं लिख smart answer. And like I said, as soon as we're done with this topic, I want everyone to attempt the question that on the feminist understanding on family. If you're able to do that, I mean, that would help us draw a line. You can't everything over here. Content that has to be catered to it. As important topics actually marks. Clear? Both feminism and sociology over here, and that the way I got able to today, and I somewhat to cater to. No. Deadline nahi assignment ki nahi बढ़ सकती. I have my reason. I'll share the reason. Okay. Yes. Okay. Let's. Haji. What has to be done has to be done. So yeah, feminism and sociology. Let's take a start here. Feminism have generally been critical of sociology for a number of reasons. Let me give you a quick little idea. So yeah, again. So yeah, feminism and sociology. Feminists have generally been critical of sociology for reasons. Let me give you an example. How many male? I mean, no exception. How did you come across? I mean, the Cambridge book published by Cambridge has a female sociologist, and the amount I've spent doing this subject, I have encountered the first one. I mean, it's in this recent publication only. इससे पहले नहीं होता था. मतलब, you know, you'd speak about females when it comes to family. You'd speak about females when it comes to feminism, but there's a lot beyond that as well. And which is why many sociologists, many feminists see this as a very mainstream approach to sociology. Mainstream here, the mainstream approach of sociology. Clear? Now, moving on. Feminists have generally been critical of sociology for a number of reasons. Very few sociologists before the development of feminist sociological research in the 1970s seemed interested in patriarchy. I mean, they would conduct researches on social class, they would conduct researches on lifestyles, they'd conduct researches on poverty, on unemployment, anything and everything, but patriarchy. Get it here? About the experiences that females have. Because most of them were men. We're talking about sociologists over here. Higgins argues the persistence of male domination was so much part of the oxygen of life that it was not even regarded as a concept. Moreover, she argues that male supremacy was seen as natural by some sociologists, especially functionalist sociologists such as Parsons. There you go. Remember Parsons, the way he advocated divisions in terms of responsibilities at home, where males were expected to play an instrumental role and females were expected to play an expressive role. Remember? So, moving on. Moreover, she argues that male supremacy was seen as natural by some sociologists, especially functionalist sociologists such as Parsons. Talcott Parsons, the popular American functionalist, the faculty member at the Harvard University. The idea that particularly the idea that patriarchy was a natural feature of society was self-fulfilling because they who wrote sociological theories were very largely men. Clear here? Consequently, many contemporary feminists, researchers into the family dismiss much of the sociology of the family as a product of male stream thinking. In other words, it has a masculine bias to it. According to Pamela Abbott, Claire Wallace, and Melissa Taylor, in 2005, they argued that such mainstream sociology has generally neglected women's issues and particularly issues of oppression and inequality relating to marriage and the organization of family life. Consequently, until feminist research such as Hannah Gavron's The Captive Wife, Conflict of Housebound Mothers, Anne Oakley's The Sociology of Housework, and Hearts When Marriage Ends, there was little sociological interest expressed by male sociologists and women. Clear here? In women are family issues such as childbirth, domestic labor, women's physical and mental health, women's leisure, domestic violence, and the difficulty of combining motherhood with paid work or a career. Clear here? Now, let me take you back from where we started. This is when I was showing you these topics. So if we talk in terms of progress, if we talk in terms of how much we have discussed, although we tried keeping it fast, but we have been able to deal with this. This much has been done. Oops, this much. I'll share that with you. I understand your curiosity. Give me a minute. I'll tell you what has to be done. Are we good here? Okay. So now we talk about, no, I would not give you 26 marker for now. Allow me to complete this. So liberal feminism, socialist or Marxist feminism, this is what we are left with. That has to be dealt with in detail. Okay. And that I look forward towards doing in the next lesson. Right. Now, taking you ahead. So like I said, we done with discussing the basics. These are key terms to think these keywords to stand you better, to make your answers better when you're writing answers. Right. Here you go. With feminism, sectional feminism, post-feminism, theoretical imperialism, ethnocentrism, power feminism, Ladats and girl power, fourth wave of feminism, digital feminism, misogyny, toxic masculinity, feminists, phobia, and that's it. So we would discuss liberal feminism in detail in the next lesson. Where this part of this topic is